So what do you see from your perspective happening, like as far between now and the election? What do you see happening, and why do you see that happening?
So one of the things I've been predicting for a while is that at some point in October, Trump's going to say we got a vaccine. And it is going to have nothing to do with Donald Trump, because Trump is not in the business of getting vaccines. The vaccine may even be from a pharmaceutical company or university in another country. But my prediction was that Donald Trump would say, I did it. We got a vaccine. Vote for me. And in fact, we just learned about the Trump CDC sending out a letter to states on August 27th saying, be prepared for a vaccine in late October. And so I think it's very clear at this point that if they need to make an emergency use authorization to claim that they got a vaccine, they've determined that it might help Trump get reelected if he can take credit for a vaccine. So I'm almost certain we're going to see that before November 3rd.
What do you think is going to happen with the debates? Do you think that those are actually going to happen? Do you think that Biden is going to participate in that?
Yeah, I mean, so as of now, everybody's agreed to 3 presidential debates and 1 VP debate. The dates are on the calendar. You know, they start in late September. I do think there's a question of, is it possible that there's some disagreement over the parameters and it ends up with somebody saying, I'm out? So for example, Joe Biden has asked for a live fact checker during the debates, which I think is obviously to his advantage and it's not to Trump's advantage. I don't see any way Trump goes for that. So that could cause a problem. You know, hopefully the networks that are carrying the debates will be live fact checking, but I think the idea of an official live fact checker, Trump's not going to go for that. I don't think there's any way, but it's possible that some of these disagreements could end up getting somebody to walk away. I think I've said before, I don't really need debates this time around. I mean, I'm fully decided. It's really hard for me to imagine anybody being undecided at this point, but if Joe Biden were to say, I won't debate, I think it would be objectively bad for him, particularly when there are people that are making the case that Biden cognitively isn't there. I don't think it would be good optics for Biden to back out. I think Trump could back out with less of a repercussion, but I still don't think it would be good for either to say, I'm not going to debate.
Yeah, the debates, it seems like the debates are just a lot more for entertainment, right? A lot more like they're entertaining. They're good for TV. You can make a lot of money with the ad space during the debates because everybody's going to watch them.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the issues, there's 2 issues. One, I've never seen Donald Trump speak in depth about any issue. So if the format allowed for 40 minutes on one question, I think it would be very bad for Donald Trump because he's not shown me ever that he can talk about an issue in that depth. The other problem is it never gets to that because the format of the debates is meant to be more entertaining and less substantive. So they don't want to talk about one thing for 40 minutes either.
Like a point to the debates is you're not going to change anybody's vote. Do you think? Like, I don't think anybody who voted in 2016 who's voting this year, I don't think a debate is going to change anyone's mind at this point.
My instinct is the same as yours. And I recently interviewed a political scientist named Rachel Bidikofer, who feels very strongly that really it's about activating people who are already on your side or suppressing the vote of the other side more than it is about changing people's minds. And if you think about it like at the personal level, if you had to either change someone's mind or just get somebody who already agrees with you to go out and vote, it's much easier to find people who agree with you and just to encourage them to vote than it is to actually change minds. So the debates, I don't think are likely to change too many minds unless something goes really wrong. Like if you really make a mistake, that can change votes. But the debates could activate different constituencies and maybe affect turnout.
Mm-hmm. What are like the biggest talking points that you've seen that people get riled up about the most on the left? Like, as far as I know, one of the big things is, obviously healthcare and like a living wage, right?
So on any particular policy, the left is a spectrum. So to say, here are the issues where my views are different than the left's, it sort of ignores that everything is on a spectrum. I think right now, the most important and pressing issues, if you look at the data, are coronavirus, the economy, and race relations. So certainly, like in 2016, the minimum wage was a big thing. Is the Democratic Party going to support a $12 or a $15 an hour minimum wage, or what's going to be the minimum wage? During the Democratic debates this year, there was a lot of debate about Elizabeth Warren's wealth tax versus Bernie Sanders' tax plan versus Joe Biden wanting to uncap taxes on Social Security. You know, there's all these different proposals. Right now, Americans are saying coronavirus is the top issue. And on that, Joe Biden is very much ahead of Trump. Number two is the economy. And obviously that relates to coronavirus, because the reason we have the economy we have right now is because of coronavirus. And number three, race relations. And all three of those are not particularly good for Donald Trump. Now, Republicans are typically strong on the economy. And even right now, there are polls that have Trump ahead of Biden on the economy, but by very, very little. Often the Republican candidate is 5-10 points ahead on who will better deal with the economy. The latest Fox News poll has Trump 1 point ahead on the economy. So those are really the three big issues right now.
Why is he not much farther ahead on the economy, in your view?
Well, I think people recognize that the economic destruction of the virus is worse than it had to be because of his handling of the virus. In other words, Trump didn't create the virus, of course, and every country had to deal with it, but other countries dealt with it in a way that was more responsible, and thus they mitigated the economic damage.